Sometimes through no fault of our own, our own cells will turn against us, and hence autoimmune. So it's really an overactive immune system. It needs some education and realignment to stop attacking ourselves. And I'm real big into finding out what root causes are.
I went through food allergy testing. I didn't, I had all these, stool testing. I'd been to how many doctors, how many specialists, and spent thousands of dollars. And not to mention, I can say it now, that I was addicted to pharmaceuticals because I was in so much pain.
Thrive, thrive, thrive. We are alive. Hi, I'm Siobhan Shaw, and I'm your host for the Real Talk. And this is brought to you by FeelGoodShareGood. And you can find FeelGoodShareGood on Facebook, FeelGoodShareGood.com. And tonight our topic is thriving with autoimmune, better strategies for better living. And our conversation will revolve around managing autoimmune disorders and embracing better health. Jeannie is the founder of Manna of Life Wellness, LLC in Louisiana. And she is a specialist in gut health, the immune system, all kinds of chronic diseases and autoimmune challenges. So we're going to learn about what autoimmune disorders are, first of all, and then we'll get the doctors talking about it, and we'll figure out how we can help people that are facing autoimmune disorders to live better lives.
Really, I feel privileged to be here with this group of people, and it is on my heart to educate and share with people, to bring them back to the original plan that God had for us for our health, and not necessarily big pharma. A big topic that is, I think it's kind of a buzzword now, maybe I've just focused in, is autoimmune. I mean, they throw that word around pretty easily and frequently. And unfortunately, that is the case. You commented on, or you made the point of, what is autoimmune? Well, God created us with an amazing immune system, and it's kind of like an army that fights for us. But sometimes through no fault of our own, our own cells will turn against us, and hence autoimmune. So it's really an overactive immune system. It needs some education and realignment to stop attacking ourselves. And I'm real big into finding out what root causes are. It's my experience with medicine, with Western medicine, which I was a nurse for 30 years. So I walked through some of that and left discouraged, like many other practitioners did, and was blessed to be able to come into this field. I also experienced my own autoimmune disorder issues, so I've walked through that part too, and it gives me insight on what my clients and those listening to me have experienced. So autoimmune is not pleasant. It's very painful. It's very life disrupting. And if you think of the root, it is attacking ourselves. So what causes it to do that? In my opinion, it's a toxic world, but there are some genetic disorders that facilitate that. But if we can get back to the root cause and restore healing in your gut and reduce inflammation, there is a chance to really enjoy life again without a lot of pharmaceuticals on board.
Oh, that's cool. So do we know the names of some of the varieties of autoimmune disorders? Are they recognizable to us, or?
Oh, probably so. Usually I'm fine that, and for myself, the first one to come on board is irritable bowel syndrome, sometimes also Crohn. It so usually starts in the gut, that's something like that. Most people, I've never found anyone otherwise. If they have one autoimmune disease, they have others. So Hashimoto's is one, lupus is one, MS is one, muscular dystrophy is one. Help me here, Dr. Roni. What are some other ones?
Yeah, there's so many of them. Multiple sclerosis, ulcerative colitis. I think, a lot of people have autoimmune that they don't even know they have autoimmune.
I
Like,
agree.
Hashimoto's, people had no idea that it was autoimmune. And I think that's the saddest part, because we don't educate people that they do have an autoimmune. So when you don't educate somebody, then how do you treat it, right? So the first thing, you have to tell people what it is. If you say to someone, you have a condition that your body is on overdrive fighting against you inside your own body, you got an army fighting against you, then they'll start asking questions. What does that mean? So what that means is you have to do all the natural things that put your body in harmony. And I think people don't know what that means. And so we have to start educating them. The first thing you're going to find out why their autoimmune condition gets worse is you got to look at what they're eating. Most of the time, they're just eating regular processed foods. And then you got to look at what they're drinking. They have no problem with drinking alcohol or taking as many medications as they can, because they think the more medications, the better. And it's not the more medications, the better, because we got to teach them what that means. Your body is on overdrive. Why are you doing all this?
And that's a wonderful point. And almost, I would say 99.9% of the clients that I see, and I do use energetic testing. So that's where I'm finding the disharmonies, is it starts in the gut. They all have leaky gut. And ideally, your intestines should be a solid tube. It does have the ability to absorb water and exchange liquids and minerals, that kind of thing. But with chronic inflammation, it starts to separate and things seep out that don't need to seep out back into our bloodstream. So it is a healthy response of our body to recognize that those don't belong in our bloodstream. And then they form antibodies or an attack program for that. And when that is repeated over and over again, it becomes hypersensitive, and it attacks all things that we wouldn't think of. You develop lots of food allergies, or food sensitivities is really what it is, rather than allergies. But it's on high alert all the time, and it never rests.
I remember going through so much extreme, not only the irritable bowel syndrome of my gut, I had so many external or internal discourse, which led to, liver disease and cirrhosis of the liver. And, and this is something that I've been battling for years. But, they mentioned that I probably had celiac disease. And then I have rheumatoid arthritis, which is ultimately basically autoimmune diseases. Am I correct in that?
You are correct.
Yeah.
So if you have one, there's probably at least one, if not more, lingering in your body that you haven't realized yet, because it's turning on your body systems, and there's lots of excessive inflammation. Inflammation is good when there's an injury or for an acute or right now thing, but when it stays too long, it starts doing damage to the tissues, and it corrupts the mitochondria and the cells. And when they duplicate the wrongness. So it's a perpetual hamster wheel until you get to a root cause and calm everybody down.
What you just said just brings back so many memories, because I've had 2 friends die many years ago with lupus. And the one thing that the doctors was doing wrong is you put them in the hospital and they're already on overdrive. So guess what you do? You hook them up to IVs. You give them all kinds of prednisone and you even give them what's that, methotrexate. And you know that the list is huge of the medications of what they do to someone with autoimmune. And they get on high alert, and they get what's called overdrive. They don't sleep. Their anxiety is through the roof, the high cortisol levels, and they lose the battle. And so we got to change that trajectory by allowing them to understand the condition that they have. And you're absolutely right about one autoimmune will create more. Because why? Because we're not even calming that one down. And what happens, we overdrive them with so much medications, they end up getting a new autoimmune on top of the one they already have.
So how do we find out that root cause of the first of the cascade of disorders? How do you find that out?
Start with the gut. And a lot of people don't understand that, what senolytic therapy is, or senescent cleansing is. senescent cleansing is really about removing dead cells, debris, senescent cells, or those Gombe cells that just don't work in your system. And a lot of times we get these senescent cells or overdrive of toxicity in our bodies by doing what the average doctor wants us to do, and that is to fill our bodies up with so many chemicals and medications. So the first thing we teach them is to rest, to calm down off of that stuff, and one by one we teach them how to decrease the overload of medications that they have. And of course, you know, detox is amazing. I have calmed so many people's immune systems down by detoxing. And autophagy is another one, by putting people in what's called intermittent fasting so that they can create autophagy. That's huge when it comes to an autoimmune condition.
I think what people don't realize is, in general, you're given X amount of energy for the day. And when you don't eat or consume foods, which is the detox, part of the detox you do for fasting, that energy can be used toward healing instead of breaking down the food. So you're freeing up resources to help heal your body.
When I did the detox for the first time, it was July of this year. You know, I got into, we'll call it my senior years before I knew anything about detoxing. And of course, Gillian introduced me to Dr. Roni, and then Dr. Roni's Detox for Longevity. And I did it. I didn't want to. I was scared. And I think I had a lot of those, you know, just, I don't think I have an autoimmune disorder, but I have a lot of little things going on in my system, on my body, and a lot of it in my gut, right? You know, bloating after I eat and all those kinds of things. But what I found was immediately within a day of starting this detox, and I think Dr. Roni might remember me talking about this, the throat clearing went away. And then my stomach, you know, after the 21 days, my tummy got flat, and I've been doing the digestive enzymes and the pro and prebiotics and the Age Pro. Dr. Roni was talking about those zombie cells. And I think by doing all that, I'm clearing out a lot of the junk, I guess, that's just been hanging around all the decades I've been alive. And I feel so much better. You know,
awesome.
I still have little things, and I overeat. I mean, there was
Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving, right? I think I ate way too much pumpkin pie and way too much whipped cream on it. But I suffered for a day, and then I'm back. I'm good. Okay. But I can't imagine suffering every day. And I think that's what people with autoimmune disorders, and especially if they have cascading ones that are, snowballing one into the other, it must be just so difficult to live with. What are some of your worst patient scenarios that you've run into?
A lot of my perspective came from my own story, and there was times in the past that I was almost bedbound, and every day I would have to be very purposeful on what I needed to accomplish that day and to spread that out through the day. If I tried to do too much, I wouldn't get to finish the day. It got to the point where even just sweeping my living room or washing my shower, cleaning my shower, that would be it for the weekend. I would be in bed the rest of the time. Headaches and extreme pain, fibromyalgia was one of the things I suffered with, along with the chronic fatigue. And those are things people come to me and report. So everybody's at a different level, I guess, or a different point, but your body will get louder and louder to get your attention. And, by the time I was almost bedridden, I didn't have a choice but to pay attention and to move forward. The Lord was very gracious in giving me little tools as we went along to bring my healing. But in recent times, I added Age Pro, and that was very effective for me as well, because my mitochondria was damaged from all the chronic inflammation, and that's what happens in autoimmune. And Age Pro is very efficient at helping reset the circadian rhythm, which allows you to get a deeper restorative sleep, as well as just get rid of those zombie cells she referred to. Another issue a lot of people have with that have the autoimmune disorders is they don't absorb nutrients correctly, because there's so much inflammation in the gut, and that was part of my issue. So when I got the absorption part and I added some age pro to it, I was able to eliminate about half of my nutraceuticals. I didn't require the vast volume anymore to sustain my level of quality of life.
From somebody that had, like Jeannie, had gone through a life where I was struggling with one diagnosis to another every day of the week, it seemed, and not really having an understanding as to why. It was refreshing to sit down in a chair with Dr. Roni, just this is part of the reason why I'm so committed to not only giving her a voice, but also giving her voice to the learnings that I have been exposed to. Was that all the years at age 54, I'm 54 years old, having gone through so much trauma and but I was never not healing. I wasn't healing. I was just getting worse and worse and worse. And then it got to a point where I had to make a decision on my life. And then sitting down with Dr. Roni, within 20 minutes, she knew exactly what I was going through. And I had an answer. And I went through food allergy testing. I didn't, I had all these, stool testing. I'd been to how many doctors, how many specialists, and spent thousands of dollars. And not to mention, I can say it now, but that I was addicted to pharmaceuticals because I was in so much pain with everything I was going through. So some of these prescriptions are now I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to get himself in trouble, but are now no longer being prescribed because they're banned and because of the side effects that they brought into my life. But now that I know and did some research on it, that was a big part of my problem. Was my gut was completely destroyed.
And pharmaceuticals do that.
Yeah. So I had a leaky gut, my microbiome was completely off the charts, and I didn't really even know what digestive enzymes was. I didn't even know what probiotics was. I wasn't being educated by my own doctors at the time. I was just told to take another pill. So, don't get me wrong. There's a time and place for that, that need, right? I know that. And because believe me, I've had to leverage that when it becomes a certain crisis as I've been through. But being educated and being heard and then being told that I need to clean out my wastebasket, number one, my liver is not actually working to the way it was. And everything that I'm absorbing is now just being absorbed by my gut before it gets into my system. So if I'm going to have bread, where's all the nasty stuff from the bread going? Where's the glycophytes going? They're going into my gut. And so I wonder, I looked like I was 20 months pregnant, and I was, trying to do the best to lose weight, and I was never losing weight. So there's always that cycle of, trying to find the root cause. But I think we're getting better now with being able to assess the root cause. And people are like Dr. Amanda, who's in the guest right now. We have a gut health specialist. You can do microbiome testing. You can actually now do detailed food allergy testing and functional medicine. Wow. Do you remember I remember looking for a functional medicine doctor. I couldn't find one at all or any in my proximity where I was living in Canada. Nobody talked about that, but guess what? Now it seems to be mainstream, and I'm happy to say that. And I'm happy to say that I'm meeting people like Jeannie, like I met you, and I'm like, oh my God, we have naturopaths. And that's what I want to do, is introduce people to the world of naturopathic living. And Dr. Roni opened my eyes, but at age 54, I had to learn that. That's sad. Right?
I think you're not alone, Gillian. I mean, I most of my life I've shied away from pharmaceuticals. I've been touch wood, healthy enough that I haven't needed pharmaceuticals other than if I had an operation and whatever they give you there, or antibiotics, right? So I've never been put on anything like for high blood pressure, and I'm sure I have high blood pressure. Some people see my high blood pressure in full view some days. but the thing is I also for a very, very long time, I've turned to holistic practitioners, from naturopathic doctors to energy healers and body talk healers and those kinds of things, and chiropractic care and colonic care. But the thing is so many people just don't understand the power of holistic medicine. And we're learning from the the best tonight. Dr. Jeannie from Louisiana and Dr. Roni from Martha's Vineyard. You guys are incredible. The wisdom that you bring to the table to help people. And the more people we introduce the idea of holistic care to in the younger generations, the healthier our population will get. We won't turn to allopathic care first. We'll, unless it's an emergency situation, we'll turn to the holistic health arena. I mean, there's so many ways, and that should be part of our health insurance. It should be the first line of defense for everybody. And I think, would you agree with that?
I would agree, but then they don't
being shaped differently.
I do agree with that, but then there's no money to be made from the insurance and big pharma when they encourage those people to go in that arena. But that is where the answers are, I believe. I was in my early 50s when I became really ill too, and I was already on $400 a month of prescriptions. And when the irritable bowel syndrome part started, nobody told me it was about something I was eating. I was just given a prescription to quiet it down, and I needed it and I took it. But I don't have to take that anymore. I understand that if it happens now, I ate something to insult the integrity of my gut, and I know things to do to calm that down and get back on track. But the things that we take just destroy the gut microbiome, anywhere from stress to antibiotics to pharmaceuticals, and that impacts our liver too. And that's another part I'd like to touch on is if we're not taking care of the liver, that's our filter system. You wouldn't buy a new house and never change the return air filter. What would happen? It would shut down your whole heating and HVAC system, and it would pollute your air. Well, we don't, unless we're taught, we don't do anything to support the liver. And it has detox pathways, and if those aren't supported, the toxins build up and inflammation builds up. So there's another part to the gut health is supporting the liver so that it can process what needs to process and get rid of what needs to process and get rid of, so it can keep doing its job.
Gillian, you can talk firsthand as somebody who is dealing with
having
liver health.
I didn't even really know what liver disease was, but I just remember hearing the word. I have cirrhosis of the liver, which is one of the extremes, and that's what my path of journey has been in helping myself go through periodic the detoxes. I do that periodically, more so than many. I don't, because of what I've gone through, and I'm healing my liver. So I have to, I got good news. I do still have a little bit of fatty liver, but most people have fatty liver and they don't even know about it anyway. But I now am on a pathway where my body is healed. There's no cancer in my system, which I am. I do, for those who don't know me, I did have cervical cancer at one point. So I was always in fear about any pain that I have in my gut. So so now I'm on my journey of healing, and it's been progressing over the last few years, and I'm actually getting better and better, and I'm feeling great. I'm feeling good, but I do know what it feels like to wake up not having any energy and not feeling really tired and having rashes on my body that I don't quite understand, and doing no matter what I can do with any diet, and any food would trigger me, and headaches. It was a horrible time in my life where I got to the extreme where I just felt like I was at my wit's end. But we did have a question here in the audience about, how do you know if you have a leaky gut, and what do you do about it, right?
The hardest thing to diagnose is leaky gut. And I found out that the one thing about leaky gut, those victims, those patients, those clients that are in horrible condition, the first thing you're going to find is they're going to have horrific brain fog. Because remember, we always say your everything starts in the gut. Dr. Raimondo teaches us that everything starts in the gut. If your gut is poisoned, it's going to affect your brain. So they're also the hardest clients to treat, right? Because the symptomatology is all over the place, and they don't just necessarily talk about their gut. They'll talk about extreme fatigue. They'll talk about I can't think. They'll talk about they have no motivation. They are nauseous. They can't eat anything. They're allergic to everything. And the horrible thing about it, which puts puts I would say the cap on the bottle is fibromyalgia. When you say that, Doc, fibromyalgia.
Yes.
They have
When you get to that
extreme
point,
pain.
it's pretty
Yes.
intense.
Yes, exactly. It's literally hard to not only diagnose them, but also to treat them. And that's why they're sort of kind of like the trash can diagnosis, just like chronic fatigue is. Like doctors throw it in the trash can because they can't figure it out. They don't get care, and they just get a drug, a new drug every time they go to the doctors.
And
If you just-
sometimes labeled too that they have psychiatric issues because it's all in their
Absolutely.
head.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is it something like stress or hypochondria, or
Not hypochondria, but
Those
stress
ki-
does play a part.
stress
Yeah.
does play a part?
Yeah.
It destroys your microbiome as well. And cortisol is released, which causes more inflammation.
Mhm.
And you stay in fight or flight all the time instead of being able to rest. So then you find that you're not sleeping well, or it's broken sleep. You get
Right.
a big belly across, spreading of the belly. Your heart rate fluctuates more than it should. There's lots of signs. So for
Yeah.
me, when a client comes in, my mindset is they have to prove to me they're not leaky gut, because the food and everything that we consume is so out of balance anyway. You can't go wrong by teaching them to support their gut first, even if there isn't a full-blown leaky gut, because at some point the inflammation is gonna be very loud and complaining.
So what's the first thing you tell them to do if you suspect that they have a leaky gut?
I'm a big fan of the For Life Research Company products and their protocol. So we would start, if you came to me and after we had a good interview, it's not just across the board, but I don't find very many people that wouldn't benefit from starting with transfer factors and a good probiotic, which For Life offers that. And it also includes transfer factors. And then we'll go over what their eating practices are, and I will try to educate them there. There's a few things I would recommend if they're in intense GI distress that can calm that down, like bone broth, detoxing, fasting, getting away from any of the processed foods. That's a good start for anybody. But if you have autoimmune issues, I found the quickest way to start reducing the inflammation. And if it's excessive, if their pain is excessive, I will look at other herbs and oils that might help reduce some of that inflammation process, so they can at least be more comfortable while their gut's healing.
How do you use an essential oil, and is it a pure oil, or can you just get it off the shelf at the pharmacy?
Oh, absolutely not. I used to do a whole class on how to choose oil, but now there's so many out there. You would want to get a therapeutic grade. You would want to do your research if you're trying to support your health. You don't want anything that's got synthetic components to it, because then you're adding more toxins to your body. So it need to be a therapeutic oil, a reputable company. I don't know. They're all over the place now. You can get them anywhere. You don't go to the local Walmart or Costco and buy your oils, because when you see that they're $3 a bottle, that's your clue that there's been additives to it, and they're probably not for your health. Because just to grow and harvest and distill and bottle the therapeutic grade costs more than $3 a bottle. So there's no way they could sell it for that. So that I could do a whole class on that, so don't get me started. But
we'll get you back.
That was my initial introduction to natural health, was essential oils. And for 8 years, I used nothing but essential oils. I got off all my pharmaceuticals. I got pretty sick with some detoxing. It helped me detox a lot. And that was my introduction to natural health, and made me hungry to learn more. And that's when I went back to school.
And Dr. Roni, do you think that we've talked about nutrition playing a role, and what about mindfulness? What about using the power of mind?
Yeah, I know that because of the comprehensiveness of some of the clients that I'm treating, and that I have to go there with mindful healing, because until you do that, you know, I always have the premise that the body believes what you tell it. If you tell the body that you're sick and under stress and you can't do this anymore, then that's exactly what happens. The body gives up, right? So mindfulness is huge. And, you know, and I also practice the 3 principles because I always give people the opportunity to learn what that means is that we are born with the ability, we all have free will. We just have to teach people to understand that what that means is that you can decide on how you are going to feel in any given moment, despite the trauma that you have just gone through, or the autoimmune crisis that you went through, or the fact that you're in the hospital. If you're in the hospital and you think that you're not going to make it, most of the time you won't. But if you feel like you will get up out of that bed and life is going to be good and your pain's going to go away and you're going to beat this autoimmune condition, I have seen people do that and they always win. So it does play a part, but it's not easy because most of the time the person have to hit rock bottom before they're willing to learn what the emotions, how emotions play a part in the whole illness. So yeah, thank you for that question because that's huge. And you know, one of the things that, you know, we learned in naturopath school and holistic school is that the first thing we learn is do no harm, right? And the second thing we learn is that our bodies are given the natural ability to heal. Just allow the bodies to do that. And so and going back to your question about the young generation, I have to tell you, they're starting to get it. The older generation has already given up because they feel like they've already missed out, even though that's not true. My grandmother lived to be 100 and something, and she just kept on every single day. She got up and she did what was natural. Common sense things wasn't natural to her. It wasn't natural to open up a can or a bag or a bottle. It was just natural to go get those herbs that Doc was just talking about. She knew what essential oils were. They made essential oils. So until we understand that we have the opportunity now today to start, we're not going to win this war. But I can tell you, the young people got what it takes for us to train them.
You know, if people turn to holistic medicine and away from allopathic medicine and pharmaceuticals for everything, aren't the prices of things going to go down? Of, you know, so people can actually afford healthcare, that they don't have to worry about if they lose their job, if they can go to the doctor, or they're not going to worry about having to, you know, wait for months, you know, to get their eye fixed or something, or, you know, some sort of operation they need, because there aren't 100 other people lined up in front with disorders or illnesses that are related to what they're eating, their level of stress, you know. And if they'd just been able to manage that, they wouldn't be in the emergency. They wouldn't be waiting for months to, you know, in a lineup of people to get some service from a doctor.
I think there's at least two parts to answer to that. First, they have to be willing to be responsible for their own health, but we've spent at least 2 or 3 generations indoctrinating ourselves and our children that the doctor has all the answers, and what the doctor says is the, you know, the final say. So you have to be willing to take responsibility for your own health and look outside that. And some clients that I am privileged to help, they don't have the benefits of insurance and all that. So they're not thinking, well, they're going to, wherever they go, they're going to have to pay. So what they were doing wasn't working. Now they want to investigate this. I found a lot of people that have insurance won't come for holistic health because insurance doesn't cover it. So it's a mindset of in that respect, as well as taking responsibility for their own health. And
so you would be a fan of insurance covering holistic health? And
not necessarily, because that's how they took over medicine, is then insurance dictates what the protocols are and what you should or shouldn't do. So it kind of takes that out of the doctor's hands. And that's where a lot of doctors I'm finding are getting disgusted, because insurance has a protocol and they have to fit their client into, or their patient into that protocol. And in their gut, they might realize that there's some other things that would be more beneficial that isn't pharmaceutical related. Do you agree with that, Dr. Roni?
Absolutely. And that's why I always start with cleaning up the body first. Because, and I really start with blood work first. I always have to find out how high their CPR levels are and their SED rate. And those are the inflammatory markers that tell me the shape that they're in. And so we first go diving into getting that inflammation down. And then I'll end by my session by telling them what to eat. There are a lot of foods that are anti-inflammatory. The number one food that I always tell people is do fish oil, oily fish, salmon, and sardines. I don't know. There's a list of them now, but I know that the omega-3 helps you a lot with autoimmune and make sure your vitamin D levels are adequate. And the other thing that you have to understand is that when we do what's called healthy food, there's a whole list of categories of food that we have to calm down on. And I'm sorry, that's just carbohydrates. I believe in good quality protein with omega-3. I believe in dark greens, of course, because we need that. But I believe that sometimes we have to be careful with that overwhelming fiber. It's a myth to tell somebody to go buy a bottle of fiber all the time, because if you don't know, if your gut's inflamed, now you take a brush and you scrub it, right? So everyone's condition is personalized. Personalized medicine is huge, and we should treat every individual just like they're a personal individual and customize their program. And then, of course, the why part to PEVI, the protein, the essential fats, the vegetables, and then the why, which means your specific supplements. And that changes from person to person. But you didn't hear me talk about grains and carbs and all of that. Not that you don't ever have to do that, but start with just PEV first. And you'll find that your autoimmune condition will calm down quite a bit. And then intermittent fasting with detoxification, one big long one, at least 21 days every single year. And then 4 times a year, you go into what's called either weekend or 7-day. And you can control that inflammatory process, which sometimes ends up being a fire. Inflammation is the beginning of fire, right? Got to have a little flame first, right? And if you don't calm that down, you're going to end up with a fire. And that's when it hurts your liver, your kidneys, your adrenal glands. And then you're a mess because you can't sleep, right? You don't sleep good. You're in a lot of pain. You have brain fog. All of that is the fire within.
I just want to thank you, ladies, for joining myself and other practitioners and Dr. Roni and your passion for getting the word out that we do have a better way. The Lord provided for us, and we don't have to stay suffering there. Our body is designed to heal. And thank you for all that you do to get that word back out to the world and the universe. Well, I guess thanks to Gillian, we're all over the world. It's not just United States. Everybody needs this. So thank you for including me, and thank you for your passion and determination to share.
Feed your gut, fuel your life, and feel your best. This has been Real Talk, where we get real to heal. Good night, everyone.